Alright guys, it's Charlie Tango 1994 back with another YouTube video. It was back last summer was the last time I actually got out excuse me, to do a DX trip, and I've been waiting for the weather to get a bit better. So fortunately this weekend the sun's come out, the skies are blue, and I'm going to make a plan to get out tomorrow to one of the sites I want to get to. And it gives me the opportunity to get myself organised. I went through my radio bag last year, and there's a few things I want to do slightly differently this year, just because the old bag was getting a bit heavy. I did slim things down a little bit, but I bought a few different things more recently which I want to try out. So let's get the bag open and I'll talk you through what's in there, what's different from what I used last year, and what little improvements I'm looking to make this year. So it always amazes me when I pull everything out of the bag just how much goes in there, and I have to say it is quite a considerable weight, so not really a surprise, and that's one of the reasons that I do want to change things up, just to try and reduce the pack weight. But let's talk through some of the stuff that was in the bag last year and what I'm looking to change. It's just working left to right, but let's kick it off with doesn't really matter what the weather's like, and I do prefer, and do always actually, only go out when the weather's good. I don't fancy going out in the wind and the rain and all of that, which is why I only do this sort of thing spring to summer really. But I do always carry like an anorak or some kind of waterproof jacket, being that generally I'll be in a t-shirt or something, maybe long sleeves. But if the weather does change for whatever reason, and it is known to in this country, it's worth having some sort of windproof, waterproof protection. So that always goes in one of the pockets of the rucksack, just so I've got it on me. In front of that, nothing really essential to the day, but there's a hand towel there and a rag, basically just an opportunity to, you know, wipe your hands, wipe your forehead, wipe equipment down even. It's just useful to have a rag with you. Next to that is the YouTube stuff that I use, the camera stuff that I use, which we'll take a closer look at in a minute. Next to that is one of the things that I've looked to change this year, and I've done a video of this recently. It's a little two-man tent that I managed to get on eBay for 10 quid. Rather than take a tarp and all the bits and pieces that go with it, I thought I'd give this a try, just because it should be easier to assemble. Shouldn't take up a lot of space in the bag either, so going to swap that out this year. Next to that is a little footstool, a little stool basically, just handy. As I've said in a previous video, I don't really want to be sitting on the floor or sort of couched over all the time. It's just useful to have something to sit on, so that comes with me. Again, I'll probably pull that out in a second and show you what that looks like. Next to that is a bit of an optional item, but it's my little drone. I've done a complete review of this on the channel before. I've just got it bagged up at the moment, but I'll pull it out and show you what that looks like. And with it being the summer, and you won't know this, but I'm a slightly balding fella, so it helps to cover your head in bright sunshine. And this is my favourite little cap, or a little floppy hat. And I have used it, to be fair, both in rain and in the sun, and it's bloody useful when you're miles away from the car or any kind of shade or shelter. So that always goes in the top of the rucksack in case I need it. Then some new equipment ish, one that I had from last year but never used, but again a video that I did recently of the little porta pack. That's what I'm planning to use this year in the majority of the DX trips that I do. Again, I've done a full review of it, quite a detailed review, and there's the little pack converter next to it that I can plug my battery into, that I can run it off my little portable battery rather than a selection of AA batteries. That also gives me the option then to run other equipment if I need to. And I did get a little handset last year. Let me see if I can bring that in. which I've not really used yet, but again, because it's lightweight and everything else, and I have shown this in previous videos, I've got an adapter to go onto my T2LT, and it's got an external mic on it, which again I'll probably show you in more detail in a minute. This bag is, I guess, what you'd call the real radio bag. It's got all the gubbins in, Stewart's T2LT, which again I've mentioned a few times in previous videos, cordage, all of that sort of stuff for putting the mast up, and everything I need in there, electrical tape, all that sort of stuff to help me erect the mast and connect the radio to the actual antenna. Next to that is a favourite thing of mine, but the thing next to it and just in front of that, so the little blue bag and the little rectangular thing in front of it, I'm going to swap it out. The camouflage holdall there is the Crusader set, which I've used so much, not just on DX trips, but it's just one of the things that comes with me when I go camping or out on day trips or whatever else. When it's got water in the canteen and everything else, it's quite a weight, so I was thinking I might try something different. Generally I don't cook when I'm out on a DX trip, but I do fancy a coffee, usually more than one, sometimes more than three. So I do want the ability to be able to make a drink when I'm out, so I'm going to try something different this year. I bought a little stove, the BCB stove, which is that item there, which we'll take a closer look at in a moment, and a little cook set basically. It's got like a mini sort of saucepan, a little mini cup, but there's a little kettle in there, which is the main reason that I bought it. So that's what I'm going to pack away. I probably won't take all of it with me, but certainly I'll take the kettle. I've got a mug somewhere, coffee mug somewhere, and I do take the Nescafe 3-in-1s or whatever they are. So you just chuck that in and chuck some hot water in, and hey presto, you've got your coffee. So that's what I'm going to look to pack with me. Next to that is my portable battery. It's one of those car jumpers, which again I've done a full review of in the past. I'll probably put a link to it in the video. I might open that up in a second just to show you that in more detail. And I've mentioned the coffee cup just now. It's got some other bits in there, some cordage and some elastic stuff, but that always sits in the bottom of my bag somewhere, because as I say, I do like a cup of coffee when I'm out, so that's an essential bit of kit to me really. Along with that then is a wind shield, a wind protector, just handy when you're using one of those little stoves, just to block the wind out a bit. Don't know how bad the wind's going to be tomorrow, but the higher the altitude generally, the stronger the wind, so it's useful to have that with you. And then to the right of that is just some bits and pieces. There's some BCB fuel, I forget what it's called, Fire Dragon I think it is, which I've used before. I've also got some of the BCB fuel tabs in the stove, which I'll probably use tomorrow. And then there's a little flashlight, should I ever need it. It's just useful to have in the bottom of the bag. And a little pirate flag, I'll show you that again in a second, which I'm going to put on top of the mast. So again, the mast is kind of lying in the middle of that, between everything else, but that will come with me. That obviously doesn't go in the bag, but I tend to use that almost like a walking stick, or a walking cane, as I'm clambering up the hills. So that extends out to, it was 8 foot or 10 foot, I can't remember, 8 meters, sorry, not 8 foot, which is pretty long enough. And I've used it quite a number of times, last year and the year before. Works bloody well, to be honest. Put your T2LT on that and get some cordage into the ground, and your station's set up pretty much. Alright, so that's what I'm looking to do. What I'll do is some close-ups, get some other stuff unpacked, and we'll try and edit all this together into a video. And tomorrow I'll be heading out for my first DX trip of 2019, Sid's Sunday DX. So I'll get all this stuff organised and then packed away again, and I'll be jumping in the car tomorrow morning and heading out to one of the locations that I've selected for 2019. So a closer look at what I call my YouTube bag, but it's all my sort of video recording kit, and there is some changes to it from last year. The bundle of wires down there is a selection now of different microphones. Sound has been one of the most difficult things to deal with in terms of YouTube videos. What I've done in previous years is just use my phone, my iPhone, but when there's any sort of external sound, including wind noise and all of that, it's just so difficult to capture your own voice. So I've tried to invest in some other stuff that should help improve the sound quality of the video. To which end, and I haven't tested this yet, but I've got this here, which is a wireless microphone setup. So the item on the right there would connect either into my iPhone or some other source, and then the big box on the left I would have on a belt clip or something like that, and then attach one of these microphones to that, and I'm hoping that that's going to give better sound quality. If not, I just plug one of these straight into whatever I'm using, be it my iPhone or whatever else. And then there's a couple of tripods, selfie stick, although I've never really used that, but I might do at some point this summer, and an adapter there to go onto one of those tripods to put your phone in. I've also bought a digital camera, a DV camera that I'm using at the moment, so this is a first test actually of using that, so I'll probably pack that away with me as well. Just better battery life, all of that sort of stuff, and it does mean I don't have to keep stopping and starting to use my phone or whatever else. So that's the YouTube bag. So just to show you out of the bag, just a little stool, very small, very lightweight, but it's enough to park yourself somewhere without having to sit on the ground or whatever else. Essential to me, to be honest, just a bit of comfort, and that sits in the top of the bag once everything else is packed away. So then we've got the portable battery, which, as I said, I've done a review of in previous videos. Number of bits and pieces in there, but what it does is enable you to, one, jump start your car should you need to with the clips there. There's also a cigarette adapter, so you can plug other items in, and for the DX trips that I do, that's what I tend to use. That connects into the battery, and then with this I can just connect this end into that, and then obviously the other end goes into the radio itself, and that works both on the Midland Porta Pack and the handheld that I use. Is interesting enough the same connection, so I can use either one of those radios with this battery pack, and I have to say it's sort of one of my favourite things. I've used it for probably 2 years now, and never really had a problem with it. I also have used it once to start my car. I did have a dead battery once, and I just thought, let's give it a try, and it did work well. It had to be fully charged before I'd actually get the car to turn over, but it did work. So if you ever did have a question as to whether these things do work, certainly this one does. And I've had a radio running off it for altogether over a couple of weekends, probably 4 hours each session, so 8 to 12 hours. I've had it running sideband as well, which is going to consume more battery, at least for one afternoon, without losing very much power out of it. The one thing I would say about these is that you must be careful not to run them down flat, because once you do that, it's virtually impossible to get them to charge back up again. So once you get down to 1 dot or maybe 2 dots, best to stop using it. That way you can get it back up to full charge. Otherwise you'll have to go out and replace it. Not massively expensive. This was under 30 quid anyway, and there are much more expensive ones than that, so I might put a link to it in the video description, as I've done in my other review videos and stuff like that. But this tends to be a pretty popular choice for those guys who want to run radio portable. So yeah, that'll all go in the bag. It's got to stay out tonight because I need to make sure it's fully charged for tomorrow, but I'll be setting that up, and we'll be using this tomorrow when we're out on this DX trip. So this is what I'm going to use as a shelter for some of the DX trips I'm going to do this summer. I'm not going to pull it all out today, but I'll try and find some footage of it when I had it out a couple of weeks ago, just to show you. And it will fit lengthwise into my rucksack, so it doesn't have to be strapped on or anything else. It does fit in there. So we're going to be taking that out with us tomorrow. So as I said, I got a choice of radios for DX trips. Traditionally, over the last couple of years, I've been using a Colt 295, which I absolutely love. It's got an absolutely incredible receive and some great days out with it. But I did want to try something else, and the Midland Porter Pack came up excuse me, back end of last year for not a lot of money. So I picked that up, and I'm dead keen to take it out and get some signals into it. So I'm going to try and use that on a couple of DX trips this year. The other option is this handheld, which again I've shown you in previous videos. This is the Eurosonic ES200 LCD, so this is the one with the LCD display, not the LED. Never really used it, to be honest, so keen to get that out and give that a try as well. Ideally for the bigger walk-ups that I'm planning to do, when I don't want a hefty great big radio. This is a bit more lightweight, but I want to give it a few tests before I commit to using just that. I don't want to get to the end of a 3-4 hour walk up a mountain and then find out that it's not great. So I'll probably take this out with me tomorrow just to give it a test. So not the most attractive of things, but the contents of what I refer to as the radio bag, but the general gubbins that you need to be able to put the mast up. You've got Stewart's T2LT there, with a long feeder cable on the end of it. Bit untidy, Stewart, sorry, but I'll be tidying it away more appropriately as I put the bag away. It usually goes in a separate pouch on its own. There's a SWA meter there, and in amongst that lot is a patch cable, and then my fluorescent cordage that I use when I actually put the mast up. Choice of colour just to make sure if it is up in low light, or other people are running around, that they know that there is cordage there. I don't want anyone garrotting themselves or anything similar. So that's the connecting bits then that connect the radio to the antenna on the mast, and that all goes in one big bag. Another quick look at my drone then. Been in a number of videos, including a review video last year. Not actually had it out on a DX trip yet. I did have a slightly smaller foldable drone that I was using, so I've had this up in the air a good few times. Buxton Bash, actually, in the Buxton Bash video that I did, I used this one. It's a Hubsan, I can't remember what the model is, H402, something like that. I could be wrong, maybe I'll correct it in a caption in the video. But decent little drone, not the whatever you call it, FPV, first person view, but it does have a camera on it, fairly easy to control, and not expensive. It was less than 50 quid, I think. And it's got a return to home button, which is handy for me, having lost more than one drone in the past. So if conditions are appropriate, and as I've done in previous DX outings, I might have it up in the air just to capture some of the views that you get when you're up on a hillside or whatever. So I'll try and make space for this tomorrow. It probably won't go in the rucksack, but if there's a way that I can carry it with everything else, then I'll take it with me. And as I said just now, what I tend to use is the Crusader Cook set, but I just fancied trying something different. So there's the BCB fuel stove in the middle there, and then this little cook set, and my old coffee mug that pretty much goes with me everywhere. It's always in the bottom of the bag. I will need to remember to remove the sachets of coffee from the Crusader kit, otherwise I'll get up there tomorrow and won't have anything to drink. So there's a bit of organisation to be done today to get myself ready for tomorrow. but we'll have a closer look at the stove first and then the cook set. So this is the little BCB stove, very, very similar to the Hexi stoves that have been around for years, and to be honest, a fairly similar price, around about £5 or £6. If I can, I'll put a link to one of them on eBay or something like that in the video description. Super lightweight, super simple, to be honest. One of the other things just to make note of is that you can use this with a number of different different types of fuel, but they come with these Fire Dragon, BCB Fire Dragon capsules, I suppose you call them. You just open them up and then plonk them in this little tray, put a light to it, and you're ready to go, basically. Identical stuff to this gear that I've got in a bottle, which I've used before. Doesn't really matter. I've used these up, I guess, the capsules themselves. Just useful to know exactly how much you're going to need to boil some water. So we'll take that with us tomorrow and see how we get on. I'm sure there's other videos of these. Quite an interesting design. It's got its own little windshield there, you can see, which all collapses down when you fold it flat. And we'll give that a try tomorrow with our cup of coffee. So this was the cook set that I picked up a couple of weeks ago. Stripped it down, there was quite a few bits and bobs in there, plastic cups, all sorts of stuff, but it basically breaks down to a fairly big pan, you can see on the left, useful for cooking your dinner basically, but boiling large amounts of water, but you could do other bits and pieces in there. And then a smaller sort of cup size, but I guess you could use it as a saucepan or a frying pan. Bit big for a cup of coffee for me, but I probably won't be taking the whole thing with me tomorrow. The little pouch is a foldable knife and fork and spoon, but as I say, I'll tend not to be cooking with it. The main thing I wanted it for is the actual little kettle, which I can't really show you the dimensions, the actual size of it, but it's enough for probably 2 or 3 cups of coffee, or 3 cups of water. But it's small enough that I'm not really going to need anything else. Obviously I'm going to need to bring water with me, but I tend to do that anyway. I'll just have a shop bought bottle of water, and that with the coffee sachets that I need, that's enough for me to have a brew when I'm out. So that's what I'll be packing away tomorrow. Could be useful for other stuff. There are some overnights I want to do. And there we go, that's everything packed away, ready for tomorrow. Pretty good, quite happy that it all fits in there. Fair old weight, to be honest, but nothing like it was before. So look forward to getting out and doing a DX trip tomorrow. Cheers guys.